Hello, in this video we look at verse 10 of the Ratana Sutta. Um, in the way that I've done it in my analysis, I've split it into two pages that I've marked 10a, sorry, 10 and 10a, like this 10 and 10a, it's verse number 231 in the Bhikkhu Bodhi translation that's on page 194 of his hard copy Sutta Nipata. So as I see, although I've done them as two separate sheets, I can't remember why I did that. I will deal with them. I'll deal with it all as one verse in this video. So first of all, I will recite it without the text up, and then recite it with the text up, and then go into the explanation. Sahavassadasana sampadaya tayassu dhamma jahita bhavanti sakkaya ditti vichikichitancha silabbatang vapi yadatti kinchi chatuhapayehi cha vipamutto cha chabithanani abhabbo katum idampi sanghe ratanang panitang etena satchena suvattihutu. I'll do it again with the text up. Here we are. Sahavassa dasana sampadaya tayassu dhamma jahita bhavanti sakkaya ditti vichikichitancha silabbatang vapi yadatti kinchi chatuhapayehi cha vippamutto chachabhithanani abhabbo katung idampi sanghe ratanam panitang etena satchena suvattihutu. So this word that appears sahavassa, there are two alternative ways of understanding this. It's either saha, assa, with his, which is simple enough, and it might be then just a lengthening of the vowel within a euphonic insertion of a V, however, yeah, a merged form of saha and assa, simple enough, with his, and then with his, whatever comes next. Alternatively, it could be parsed as saha eva assa, with the eva there serving as an emphatic. I mean, since I wrote this, I've more come to the view that it probably is an eva, just shortened sahavasa, saheva. It would be sahaiva, sahaivasya in Sanskrit. I could be wrong about that, but as I say, I incline to the view of this saha eva asa verily, or just with, or only upon his dasana sampadaya. So saha asa dasana sampadaya. Dasana, from the root drish, meaning to see. It's darshana in Sanskrit, seeing, and dasana by regular phonetic mutation in Pali. We, in the Karaniya Metta Sutta, we have Sila Dasana Sampanno, the Sila Dasanena Sampanno. So Sampanna means endowed with. It means you've got it. If you're Dasanena Sampanno, you are endowed with. You have achieved wisdom. So Sampad, The pad from the root pad meaning to go. Sampad. The sum here I interpret as having the meaning of the completed action or the successful action, the action that has completed its goal. So you're going somewhere in order to achieve it, and the sampad means that although the pad means the going, the sampad means you've achieved the object of your going. You've got it. And it makes a verbal noun. The sampanna is the past participial form of that verb, but used in a reflexive sense, meaning something that it's the person who has obtained something is sampanno, dasanena sampanno, endowed with, one person who has got wisdom. Endowed is not, we often use the word endowed, but it's not quite the right word. Means it just means you've got it. It's become part of you. You've acquired it. And that's the sampanna, the adjectival form. The noun is, you can have sampatti and sampada. So here we have the sampada. So dasana sampada, the obtaining of wisdom, the attainment of of vision. The saha, with, it takes the instrumental. By the way, saha can be either a preposition or a postposition. So in other words, most of what we in English have as prepositions, something a word that's put before the noun that it governs. They mostly turn up as postpositions in Pali and Sanskrit, but there is a postposition means like instead of a preposition, with me, in Sanskrit you can say me with. The postposition is just the same as a preposition, but postposition put after the noun. In Hindi, for example, it's always postpositions. They don't actually have prepositions as such. As I say, Sanskrit and Pali, mostly postpositions. Some words can act as both. Saha is one. So saha dasana sampadaya. You could also say that dasana sampadaya saha. So with, and just as in English we can use with in more than one sense, with here means with the attaining of, meaning by reason of attaining something. So with his obtaining, with his attaining dasana, in other words, when he attains the dasana, sahavasa dasana sampadaya, tayasudhamma jahita bhavanti. Um, let's break this down. It would be tayo 3, dhamma, here, things, qualities. Dhamma can even be a bad quality, a negative quality, depending on how and when it's used. Jahita bhavanti. Jahita, abandoned, bhavanti are. So upon the attaining by someone of dasana, of the vision, tayodhamma bhavanti jahita, 3 things, characteristics, phenomena, are abandoned. This word jahita, it's from our root, if I don't have a note on it. Yes, I have, yeah. From the root ha, meaning to abandon, the past participle would normally be made just by adding ta to the root. So you might expect to see ha ta, because the root is ha, but it's in this case it's not. It's hina is the normal past participle. And we see Jahita and Hina, but in Pali, Hina tends to have one of the various meanings, or in Pali has retained one of the various meanings that we have in Sanskrit, and it's come to mean abandoned in the sense of deprived and then inferior, lesser. We see that phrase, for example, in the Mahayana as opposed to the Hinayana, the Mahayana, the great vehicle, as opposed to the Hinayana, the lesser vehicle. Um, the alternative past participial form in Pali, which is jahita, tends to have more the literal meaning, just abandoning, leaving behind, and it's frequently used as here with the abandonment of vices, with the abandonment, the leaving, the getting rid of unskillful characteristics. So this, by the way, this cognate with the Sanskrit swid, it's just one of these a word that doesn't really add anything to the meaning, just one of these little grace. Where in music you have a grace note, which doesn't affect the flow of the music. Just so in Sanskrit and Pali, you have these little grace words that don't really affect the meaning. No, I mean, you see, well, like things, that kind of thing, you will find used in Sanskrit and Pali. So the the taya tayo three tayo sweet tayo su tayasu. So three um, phenomena, mental, specifically mental phenomena, bhavanti jahita, are abandoned. What are they? Sakaya ditti, um, the view of individuality. The original form of it in Sanskrit, it would be satkaya drishti. The sat meaning, in its literal sense, it's the present participle of the root as, the irregular verb, the root as meaning to be. Um, and the present participle stem sat or sant. In its combining form, that's when it's a non-final member of a compound, it becomes sat or sad, and very often it has the meaning of good, as in the sat dhamma becomes the saddhamma. The saddhamma in Sanskrit, saddharma pundarika, for example, the lotus of the good dharma, the good law. We have that rather entertaining character with a beard who also rides a motorcycle and dances, who glories under the name of Sadguru, does some very entertaining podcasts, the good guru. Um, but here it seems to have its root meaning, just being that which is. Incidentally, the word Sanskrit word satya, meaning a truth, that in Pali becomes satya, is just something which is. The truth is that which it really is, rather than something you've made up by false speech, for example. So Satkaya, the being body, the existing body. It has also been interpreted as from Swakaya, one's own body, meaning one's own body being identical with the self. The view has been advanced. It doesn't phonetically fit in. It doesn't account for that doubled K. The Satkaya in Sanskrit would give you a Sakaya in Pali. One's own body would be in Pali, when Sanskrit Swakaya, in Pali it would be just Sakaya with a single K. Not that that's conclusive, because Pali sometimes doubles letters when there's no etymological reason for it. Anyway, that I think is we're always open to correction here, but I think that's probably the better explanation. It means the being body, but then by extension, that means that the Sakaya Ditti and the being body view is just their way of expressing the view that this my body, meaning in individuality, body-based in individuality, rather than seeing one's own body as a constantly changing, transient phenomenon. What Sakayaditi here is getting at is this false notion of this identifying oneself with one's body. So Sakayaditi, by the way, Dasana and Ditti, these are both verbal nouns from the root drish. as I will explain right now for you. Let me call up the iPad. Where is the iPad? Lost my iPad. Here we are. Here we are. Pen. So in Sanskrit and Vedic, we have the root drish, and we can make verbal nouns in several ways, but we're looking at two here. One is by adding ti to the root, which would give us drishti, but by internal sandhi, by the phonetic rules in sandhi, um, whenever you have a sh followed by a t, they both become retroflex. That accounts to the subdotted sh and the subdotted sh. So you can't have a drish palatal t followed by dental t. It always becomes both retroflex. So drishti. Another way of making a verbal noun is you add ana to the root. There's another way of also you find ones ending in ana, as in vipassana, for example. But what happens when you this keep happening when you add ana to the root? The vowel strengthens by guna, so instead of drishana, it becomes darshana. Darshana. And by regular phonetic mutation, that becomes dasana. And by the way, by regular phonetic mutation from drishti in Sanskrit, it becomes ditti. Sorry, oops, let me do that again. So, darshana, drishti, Pali, dasana, ditti. Although they both mean seeing, the meanings have differentiated somewhat. So, ditti, and same as Sanskrit with drishti, it is a seeing, yes, but it tends to have the meaning of a view, the way you view something, your opinion, either your opinion or just the way you view the world, your views and opinions. Indeed, the word view from the Latin comes from the Latin videre via the French vue. So it can be physically a view, get a good view out of the window, or what view do you have? What's your opinion about it? Dasana, the meaning of that in Buddhist literature has come to have the notion of seeing vision, which we say just as in English we have view and vision, both from the Latin word videre, to see, but the meaning has become to differentiate. What's your view of something? What's your opinion of it? You talk about somebody being a person of vision, broad vision, somebody who's wise, who sees far. And the same has happened in Pali with dasana and ditti. And we see these usages very well exemplified in this verse. So bring it back to you. The Sakaya Ditti is the view, the personality view. How about translate the individuality view in Ditti? This one, whereas dasana here, dasana sampada, the attainment of vision here, meaning the understanding. Here we're talking about the real understanding of the Four Noble Truths, as described in the previous verse, verse 9. So the three dhamma, three phenomena, three characteristics, three things in you. Jahita bhavanti are abandoned. Sakaya ditti is the first one. the view of individuality, but body-based individuality. Though in fact, I think in Buddhist philosophy, it doesn't necessarily actually mean one's own physical body. Maybe that was just the original idea that was then developed. That's slightly above my pay grade here, but literally with the being body view, the body which is. Vichikichitam. Vichikichita is an alternative form of vichikicha, meaning doubt, um, which I've done a note on um, in the explanatory glossary. It's from the root chit, meaning to, in its meaning of, several meanings. Chit in its meaning of thinking or examining, um, and the desiderative form to desire to examine, to desire to think, becomes chikitsati, chikitsa, verbal noun chikitsa, means the examination, the mental examination of something, finding out about it, which has actually come to mean medical practice because of the idea of examination and diagnosis. But with the prefix vi, as you've got your chikitsa, Pali chikitsa, which means the mental examination, turning it around in your mind, examining it. But with the prefix vi, our separative prefix, that suggests a scattermass going all over the place, thinking one thing, then another. It might be this, might be that, not being able to make up your mind. Often translated as doubt. Um, though it's like an unhealthy, a kind of a dithering kind of doubt, just your mind going all over the place. Is, isn't, want to, don't want to, might not. It's a kind of dithering doubt rather than just a genuine, legitimate doubt, for which incidentally there is a separate word in Sanskrit and Pali, which is kankar. So kankar can be a legitimate, genuine doubt, but vicikiccha is an unskillful kind of mind all over the place. I don't think doubt really is the best translation, because this idea of a scattered, dithery mind. Sila batamva. So sila, so is generally regarded as a good thing. It's the one we have as virtue and morals from the Sanskrit shila, Pali sila. Which originally in Sanskrit, Shila meant one's characteristic mode of behavior, either good or bad. Um, but when combined with um, Bhatta, or Vata, let me explain that. Um, so Sila Bhatta, so translation Pali, Sila Bhatta. In Sanskrit, it is Shila Vrata. So Shila originally had the idea of just a characteristic conduct with no particular moral implication to it. But then by extension, it came to mean virtue, morality, or ethics. We have the Panchasilani, the five virtues, the five rules of correct conduct. We take the Panchasilam, literally the five virtues, the group of, when we, Panatipata, Veramani, and so on. Vrata originally meant a vow, giving one's word, and entertainingly, this Vedic vrata turns up in in German as Wort and in English as word. It's etymologically that they are the same, and it is word, as in one solemn word, I give you my word. But in this particular context, of course, it means a vow. You solemnly bind yourself by your word to do or to refrain from doing something or to behave in a certain way. So, sila vrata, used in a negative kind of sense, means mere observances and vows. So the meaning behind it when used as a compound like this, it's a bit of a hit by the Buddha at the Brahmins. He said, well, these people, they you know, have certain external observances, certain things they do and don't do. There are certain words that they say, vows that they make, but that's as far as it goes, said the Buddha. It's rather like the Pharisees, with all their rituals and words, but they are as whited sepulchres. It's the same idea, is what's being put forward here. So it's just reliance on or adherence to, you know, conduct and vows, as opposed to really incorporating them into one's own life, or the idea that just to have the right conduct and to say the right words is enough. That's the mischief that is being aimed at in this verse, and that's always how it is. Or I think I'm right saying always how it is when we see Shila Vrata Pali Sila Bata in in a Buddhist context. So Sila Batam Vapi Yadatti Kinchi. Um, Va means or, but it can mean and. Um, it's one of those cases, even in English, individuality view, dithery doubt, and conduct and vows, virtue and vows, um, or individuality view, dithery doubt, or sometimes the or and the and can be blur one into the other in Sanskrit and Pali as they can in English. Or even sila batam vapi, or even and even, the api, two or even, vapi, va api means as well as. Yadati, yadati kinchi, literally, what is anything, means whatever there is of what's just been mentioned. So here, there are three, the Tayodhamma, three things, bhavanti jahita, are abandoned. That is, yadati kinchi, whatever there is of sakayaditti, vichikichita, and silabhata. Yes, here we are, Shilavra. Modes of conduct, merely external spoken vows or words. So when one is talking about the hindrances, the word that we normally use is vichikicha, which is a feminine noun ending in a long a, but you also see it not so often in the past participial neuter form with essentially the same meaning. So either vichikichitam or vichikicha. They're both essentially the same meaning. So say vichikicha is the one that we more commonly see. Now I'll move on to the next one. Chatuhi apayehi, which stands chatu apayehi, cha vipamutto. So vipamutta. We've got the mutti, Sanskrit mukti is the verbal noun. The root much means to set free or to liberate. The original physical meaning was the word would be as to release something from your hand, like you're holding a bird in your hand. Munchati, you release it, let it fly up. With the prefix pra, it just has this intensive fourth. You imagine releasing a bird, but pramuti, releasing a bird, there's a dynamic and it flies forth. And vi, a further intensive forth and away, up and away. So liberated, up and away. Again, this dynamic sense of a bird wanting to escape. It's free, up it goes, up and away. So that's the mutti, the verb, and that's the verbal noun. Mutti, pamutti, vipamutti. And the past participial form is the same, but ending in a ta. And here that's what it is with the nominative singular o ending. So vippamutto, so it means that's the masculine nominative singular. So vippamuto, liberated up and away, freed away, fully liberated. This is the ablative here, chatuhi apayehi, from the four apayas. The apaya, let me just call up the um, let me just call up my explanatory glossary. Here we are. Here we are. Oops. Just copy. Here we are. Find the control. So it's from apa and I. Now, well, no, I to go. Apa means away, down, off. Something falls off the table would be an apa. So the apa, apa aya, the down going, or the away going, becomes the apa aya. So the apaya. So it's you departing, going to destruction. You can even a down going to a lower realm. It could even be construed as. So it's the how does Bhikkhu Bodhi he translates it. He puts a gloss on it. He describes it as the four planes of misery. So the four misfortunes, the four evils or calamities. Um, Planes of misery. Yes, that would be a good translation. Is slightly expanding on what the Pali actually says. So Vipamutto, liberated from the four planes of misery, from the four downgoings. Cha-cha, remember these sound quite different to the native speaker, the cha unaspirated but the cha aspirated means six. So cha-cha abhitanani, the abhitanani, literally the above standing. So if tana meaning from the Sanskrit root or Vedic sthana, in Pali becomes tana, means standing, also means a place. So abhitana, literally an on standing, an above standing, an outstanding, something that makes you stand out. But here, in a pejorative kind of way, it's I think maybe a monastic term means severe wrongdoing, something that really stands out, not just some minor misdeed, but a severe wrongdoing. And they become abhabbo katum. Abhabbo, it's from our root abhabbo, from root bhu, meaning to be. So bhavya, in Sanskrit, bhavya, Pali bhabba, literally means beable. And it's a way of saying possible, something that can be. It also means capable. So abhavya, in Sanskrit, it means more. Abhavya means something that cannot exist, incapable of existing. But the Pali form abhabba can mean that, but it also more frequently means incapable, and it's followed by an infinitive, gatum, to do. Sanskrit would be kartum. You'd expect to see katum in Pali, but it becomes gatum. So abhabbo katung, incapable to do. In English, we say incapable of doing, but that it means he's incapable of doing it. So vipamutto chatuhi apayehi, liberated from the four downgoings, planes of misery, and abhabbo gatum, incapable of doing, of committing, the cha abhitanani, the six outstandings, the 6 outstandingly wicked acts. Idampi sanghe ratanam panitang etena satchena suvatihutu. So this too is the exquisite jewel in the Sangha. By this truth may there be well-being. So I will read through it again before we wind up this video. Sahavassa dassana sampadaya tayassu dhamma jahita bhavanti sakkaya ditti vichikichitancha silabbatang vapi yadatti kinchi chatuhapayehi cha vippamutto chachabithanani abhabbo katung idampi sanghe ratanam panitang etena satchena suvatti hutu. And that's it on this video.